welcome to the Co-Op Syndicate podcast. My name is Jordan, and we have our co-host Michael, who is preparing the stream. Oh, it's not even started. Having internet? What? Oh. Hi there. Welcome to another episode of the Co-Op Syndicate podcast. My name is Jordan, and I'm one of your co-hosts. We have our other co-host here.
Hey there, guys. It's Michael C. Moore. Welcome to the Co-Op Syndicate.
And today we are going to be talking about a reaction / review / discussion of the Mortal Kombat film.
Yes, and a couple other things about current events and stuff after that. But first and foremost, we're going to talk about the Mortal Kombat. So, I guess we did also cover this topic on our friend's podcast. You guys met him, SR Shotolongo.
Yeah,
he has a show, SR Shotolongo. But we're going to go ahead.
It's SR show now. SR show.
Oh, just SR show?
Yeah, he sent me the link this a few hours ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
so make
SR
sure you
show
guys
now.
give him a follow there if you guys want to see the latest episode that we had with him. But yeah, we're also going to go ahead and give it a shot and just talk about the movie here on our podcast as well. Last time I got started, why don't you get started this time, Jordan, as someone who's an avid fan of the Mortal Kombat series and lore and stuff like that?
For sure. I as a kid used to play a lot of Mortal Kombat. I was introduced to the game by some childhood friends of mine who had come from Cuba. They were a bit older than me, obviously, but they were avid fans of the game over there. They played a lot of the first 3 Mortal Kombat, and they had a Sega Dreamcast. So I jumped into the fray around MK4, which is one of the least talked about MK games. And then from there, I kind of jumped into the series officially. Like the one that I officially owned was Deadly Alliance, and that's where I fell in love with the series. Going like I love the little. I forget what it was called, but basically it's like conquest. Oh yeah, it's conquest mode where you go and you go into dojos and you start learning like different fighting styles. That's what made me fall in love with the series. And then from there, I just kind of went off into the game, learning about the fatalities and all these amazing things that people love about Mortal Kombat. So I'm kind of happy too because originally I have or own the original movie MK Mortal Kombat and the other one Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And I remember I had seen both. I have no memory of I think the second one. I'm not even sure if the second one was even an official movie or not. It was just like direct to DVD or something. But I remember seeing the original movie, and I know it's one of those like it's so good it's bad type of films. So I was very excited about it when I was younger. But seeing this now made me. I had no expectation going in. I thought, oh, it's just gonna be another like flop. But I remembered that during MK9 there was like an indie company that did like a mini series on YouTube, episodic mini series based off of the Mortal Kombat lore. And then essentially what happened was that NetherRealms adapted that studio for themselves to eventually create like a bigger production series, but it never amounted to anything. And I don't know if maybe all that translated to something like what's going on today with this film. But what I did enjoy was that the film was actually decent. Like it was decent quality. They did some high-end budget production on effects and quality of like graphics and stuff used for like the CGI and all that stuff. They stayed true to the fighters this time, like actually incorporating a lot of their like signature moves. So that was pretty awesome for me as well as a fan. And I also like that that they didn't sacrifice any of like the source material for the sake of trying to make it more realistic. They stayed true to the lore. So like, for example, the fact that Raiden can teleport people with lightning, that's something I don't remember in the original film. The fact that in this film Kano like has the laser eye thing, that I don't remember that in the original. I don't even think Kano was in the original film to begin with. Also like Sonya had like her I forget what it's called, but the purple arm blast thing that she has, like she can just kind of like use like a sonic blast sort of. I also like that Melina, like not only did they get Melina right, in my opinion, they actually did the most annoying move that she does, which is when she does her fake kick in midair and then teleports out of the way and shows up behind you. That was beautiful. It was like they perfectly captured the game there. or at least the experience of what a player would have in a game, right? So I was pretty excited about the movie. I thought it was pretty great. I wouldn't say it's like the next Godfather or Avengers or anything like that, but I think it was good enough to the point where a franchise could start here without a problem.
Yeah, as you guys can tell, I designed the thumbnail actually with Scorpion slicing through like the sentence or like the words "video game movie stigma," because I honestly felt that that's exactly what this movie kind of did, or it's continuing to do. Like
They're following
coming
the
off
trend.
the coattails of like Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog the movie and all that,
Which are both pretty good films.
Yeah, exactly. Where I feel like video game movies are actually starting to be good. I remember also there was the Assassin's Creed movie, which is kind of interesting. I don't remember if it was necessarily the best, but
it was all right. I
remember thinking it was better than other previous video game movies.
Yeah, it's that supposedly there was a longer cut of that film that a lot of things got cut out of the way, that similar to BVS and the Snyder Cut, right? Where like
basically
there was a fuller context thing.
Studios, they had to like just cut it down to a shell
they
of
had
what
to cut it down. But
was.
I mean, in that case, Assassin's Creed was also that one because of Michael Fassbender. They were like, oh, it's gonna be great. And then they had a longer cut, like they had 2 hours and 20 minutes, but they still had a lot of things that were out of context in the film, because half of it is the fact that the movie's actually, unlike this Mortal Kombat, which is like a retelling, that film, Assassin's Creed, is actually a part of the universe. Like in theory, that is something that concurrently happens while the gamers are playing the game.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually part of the lore, and the fact that people who play Assassin's Creed understand that, but people who don't are like completely oblivious to it. They it loses the context, and that's why a lot of people dislike the film, because there's a lot of things that you have to understand in the lore of the games.
But I feel like even with all that, it was still a much better video game movie compared to like a lot of the other ones that we've seen. So Mortal Kombat's kind of continuing that. I guess just to give like a quick points review on like what I liked and disliked about it. I thought that the cinematography was great. The shots that they had and the settings were beautiful. The costume design was fantastic. The thing is that what I told you already about, where I had the nitpick with which was what?
Stay in the shot.
Oh, you're one to talk though. Like move the camera more to so that you're in the center.
I need you to tell me. I can't see behind the PC.
No, yeah. There you go. Perfect.
I can't see behind the PC.
But so I enjoyed the cinematography. The shots were great. The costumes were great. The only nitpick I have about the costumes is I always feel like whenever they do VFX and stuff for the eyes, they always go in a direction that's just, I don't know, I don't prefer, compared to like, instead of making Scorpion's eyes whited out. I know we'll talk about it. But I feel like Scorpion's eyes should have been whited out rather than made like all weirdly zombified and kept the pupils. And same thing with Raiden. Like Raiden, typically when you see him in like most of the games and stuff, you just see like the lightning like covering his eyes completely. And it's kind of like a bluish white glow. Yeah. But then here they did that, but it kind of looked like a Snapchat filter with like, his pupils still being visible from behind that. Outside of that, like I said, the costumes look great. I think the fight choreography was actually pretty damn amazing. The only fight that had like slightly questionable moments for choreography was when I think it was her name, Melina fought Sonya. There was a couple times where I could have sworn that they could have just cut each other with their weapons, and they seemed to just be aiming for each other's weapons rather than themselves. But most of the fights were choreographed beautifully. And then I think the actors that played Scorpion and Sub-Zero were amazing. They did a phenomenal job. I guess maybe Kano too, even though I felt his character was kind of over the top. But yet again, that's probably just how he actually is too.
No, he's always been like, I mean, he's a little bit more serious. I thought that they kind of had him too much as comical relief in this movie compared to what he normally is. But he's always kind of been like that, where he's kind of like he has like a little bit of superiority complex as a mercenary. And
he worked though. I thought at first when they introduced him, I thought he was an annoying piece of crap, and then he actually grew on me as the movie moved on. But I guess he'll start moving to some of the detractors. Oh, and of course, before I move on to that, the VFX were amazing. Like everything that they did was great. The moves looked fantastic, convincing. The powers looked great. It looked really good when they put Goro in the movie, and they were smart to make sure his fight was at nighttime, and they made him look realistic. Like I actually felt like he was there, and everything was just great. It really worked. Now, the detractors of the movie, I think the writing was kind of poor, or at least in some parts it looked really weak, and then the acting was really weak in a lot of parts as well. Outside of that, I'd say the movie was actually pretty phenomenal. The pacing was great. It was short, sweet, to the point. It did have a lot of exposition, which I'm not a fan of, but honestly, if it's a movie that works for both players that have played Mortal Kombat and players and people who just want to watch the movie and haven't played it, because they do a good job of explaining the universe. They added a couple of twists in there to add like some weight to the story, which is with the whole Arcana thing. That way, people had to unlock their powers in a special way.
It connects it so people can understand it quickly, right? Because one of the issues about the original thing is that everybody has like their own individual like power lore thing, and then like to explain all their backstory would be kind of difficult. So they kind of summarized a little bit of their background by just, hey, look, this is like they're like Sonya and Jax were in the military, and then their powers came from the Arcana. So I understand where you're coming from with all that.
It just works in the context of like a 2-hour movie. It just simplified it to the point where...
Regarding the Melina thing, now that I was trying to tell you this yesterday, but I couldn't find the right words, and that's probably why I wasn't able to properly discuss it with you yesterday. Of course, I was also tired. It's been a long day. I didn't sleep that well, but essentially, the thing about Melina, why to me it's justified as a fan of the game, the games and the lore, is that Melina is like she's well trained, but she's also feral and like sort of like animalistic to the sense of like an apex predator, but like to the point of playing with her food. So in a sense, like to me, it's justified that Sonya not having any powers at the moment. Of course, it's gonna be a spoiler cast episode, pretty much similar to the Sergio one. So I'm gonna obviously spoil some things. But essentially, it's kind of like playing with your food type of deal. So with Sonya not having any powers, Melina knowing that, and then just kind of like testing the field, like the waters with it, until she finally, all right, I'm done with you. She lands on her, stabs her, and then says, "Oh, you're not a champion. Like you're not worthy of a kill." And then she just dips.
Yeah, but it doesn't work for what I found flawed with the choreography. I mean, maybe I have to rewatch it. I'm just talking crap. But specifically in that fight, both Sonya and her were taking swings not at each other, but at each other's weapons. Like literally, like their weapons were up here, and they would be like swinging like that, or like down here at each other's weapons. I have to see the scene again.
I mean, like I said, from my perspective, I simply like I understand where that was coming from. I know Melina in a sense was like, playing with her food, and of course in that case, I also say too, like Sonya was like defensive because of course she knows that she doesn't have the power. This is like some being creature from another realm that has like the ability to teleport and this and that. So it's like she would play defensive, like trying to see what Melina's trying to do, and then at the same time Melina's like, oh, I'm just gonna play with my food, before I finish her off.
Right. Yeah.
So it makes sense to me in that regard, but I have to see the whole scene.
Yeah. You'd probably have to rewatch it, because like if you notice, like let's say if you take both Melina's fights outside of that one and Sonya's fights outside of that one, even when Sonya fought Kano after he had gained his power or his Arcana or whatever, she did strikes that were aimed to kill, right? Like look at all the other fights that had Sonya in it. He would make sure that she would grab the arm, maybe put someone in an arm bar, throw them, put the knife to their neck and stuff, or like take stabs at their face or like their body and stuff. All of a sudden, when she was in that fight with Melina, they were doing weird stuff where they would move the knife, the arm would be overextended, then the other hand was free, and then instead of like going for something like slicing the arm or like stabbing the body, it would just be like more like this stuff. And it just weirded me out.
I have to see it.
There was just a couple of moments like that in the choreography. Like I noticed also with Kung Lao, there was like a quick moment where like he did the Wing Chun like quick punches, but it was weird because like he specifically like moved to the side, and instead of like trying to aim for like the face or the body, he just did it to his shoulder.
Well, yeah, but wasn't that the training thing?
I think it was just during a training montage, so maybe it wasn't trying to hurt him, but
yeah, it's just a training montage. Like the point of it, I think that was with Kano, right? Kung Lao with Kano.
Yeah, I think
and at that point, he was just that to me that's justified, because I mean you see that in all types of movies with kung fu, where like the teacher, like the master or whatever, is always playful, like I guess like he's just trying to say, hey look, I'm doing all these attacks so you can see why you're not capable of defending it. So to me that made sense, but that's also because I've watched a lot of kung fu movies in the past, specifically my favorite one being the Ip Man series, where Donnie Yen as Ip Man, what he does a lot is that whenever he gets into a fight with somebody, he knows he has a certain skill set, and he knows, or he studies the skill set of the other person. So he always does a lot of playful like Wing Chun stuff to that extent, for the sake of just saying, hey look, I'm not taking this battle seriously. Like this is just, you know, us having a spar, like it's not like a fight to the death type of thing. And that's how I felt about the Kung Lao thing too, where he was kind of like, dude, like you need to stop being all like that you're superior, that you're better than me, and this and that. Like you need to stop and just focus on your training.
That
you know,
actually makes sense too. Like I guess they weren't even fighting to kill that.
Yeah, like and even then, it's kind of like what I explained to you. They did a good job of what may seem like cheesy to write it into the story and make it unique to the story, right? So again, like he starts off as this very, Kano starts off as this very aggressive, very like, pissed off person, and then they kind of show you that he's just kind of like the joke of the movie because Sonya whoops his butt on the desert, right? But then they get to the thing, and then again, Kung Lao is like telling him, like, dude, take this seriously. Right? In the temple, Kung Lao is telling him, hey, take this seriously. He's like, nah, dude, I'm from the Black Dragon. I'm the master of everything. I'm the leader. I'm the best fighter there is. I'm like wanted in like 36 countries or whatever. And then Kung Lao is just like in 2 seconds, he just like starts whooping his butt, right? But then the reason why I feel like that cheesiness is justified is because they grab that cheesiness and then Kung Lao and Liu Kang, understanding, of course, greater things, they see that that's his personality, so they abuse that by pissing him off even more over a stupid egg roll to the point where that guy finally like awakens his Arcana, right?
I was actually gonna say that was really funny because like the way that they previously described Arcana was like you need to find the thing that drives you so that your soul will become powerful enough to achieve your Arcana or something like that. Yeah. And you know, for a lot of the characters, it made sense, like the things that motivate them. Like for Jax, it was protecting Sonya. For the protagonist, because I forget his name because he was like the most forgettable protagonist ever, it was protecting his basic family.
Cole. His name's just Cole.
Cole, yeah. For Cole, it was protecting his family. Yeah. And then for Kano, it was literally a fucking egg roll.
Well, I mean,
give me my egg roll, and then he just shot like a laser at like Kung Lao, and I was like, what?
All right, yeah. I mean, you could put it in that regard, but I mean, the point is like he wanted to validate his contribution, if that makes sense. Like I feel like if they go deep into a backstory, the writers in their mind, they probably had a backstory where he was like abused as a kid, or like his parents didn't believe in him or some crap, and a lot of people just treat him like garbage, and then his way of overcompensating for people not caring about him is by having a superiority complex.
You're just getting into like headcanon here, you know, like
no, but what I'm not sure if that's the actual canon. I'm just saying, like,
I'm saying you're getting into headcanon, like that. It's just speculating.
Well, I'm speculating on that, but like bringing it all back to the movie and what they showed us is just, it seems to me like what drives him the most is that he garners respect from the people that he's around, that people understand that, yeah, he's a force to be reckoned with. And that's literally what he is. He's literally a freaking cannonball. You know,
cannonball.
Like, since we're talking about balls here, you know, and cannons, he's a freaking cannonball. You know?
It was a little disappointing that they didn't put his
his trademark cannonball ability. Move. Yeah, that was the only thing that kind of upset me, because it's like every other character got their trademark move pretty much for the most part, except for him. Like he needed his one trademark move where it's just the freaking cannonball launching himself at people through the air.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's what made that character scary, especially with the fact that in Mortal Kombat 9 you can just like cannonball and then grab somebody midair and then like abuse them like that. That's yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff that made it pretty worried. Yeah.
I mean, I felt like, I don't know, I thought casting wise they did a pretty good job too. Like I feel like everyone there was believable as the character they were casted. They did a good job with that, and for the most part, I mean, I can't say the actors are gonna win like any awards there or anything. Yeah. You know, there was a lot of memeable moments, like you know, the one that had us all laughing at the beginning of the movie, where Sub-Zero was arriving to kill all the champions of Earth. He was first trying to hunt down Cole at a restaurant, and then when he was there with his wife or whatever and daughter, he just looked out the window. Hey, look, it's snowing. I was just like, oh god, dude, I could have delivered that line better myself. It was just really funny, but
hey,
you know,
look, it's snowing.
Hey, look, snowing. It was just perfect, dude. I don't know. It was like, you know, whatever. The Mortal Kombat, I mean, you know, when you look at Mortal Kombat, you know, the acting's always kind of like, even in the game, it's like, yeah, you know.
Well, the movie's a bit more loose, that's for sure. I felt like the movie was trying to get people to like just have a fun ride, rather than like bringing us into the serious world about like combat and death and the destruction of Earthrealm and all this garbage that's usually within the main series, right? Like I felt for the most part that this film was the prequel to MK. Like it's like because they don't even have a tournament. They fight off all the champions before the tournament actually starts. So this is technically before the big battle.
Yeah. It was like, I think it's a good way for them to like kind of set us up for what we're supposed to expect without diving into the main storyline. But I was a little confused too because I felt like characters like Goro are supposed to be really important. I know there's multiple Sub-Zero, so obviously with the ending of what happened to Sub-Zero here, there's probably going to be another one in the future.
I mean, there's a lot of in the series. There's a lot of soul manipulation and stuff, especially with Shang Tsung, and eventually Quan Chi and the Elder God. I forget the Elder God's name because he's an NK4. But essentially, there's a lot of manipulation going on to the point where like people come back to life all the time, and
so whatever they can just do whatever they want at any point.
It depends on how they do it, because sometimes they can come back undead, sometimes they just come back more feral, sometimes they come back as themselves. It all depends on who's doing it and how they do it in the story. But like, I mean, if they write out Goro now for the sake of writing their own version of the timeline, I mean, I'm totally fine with that, because at the end of the day, I know you were expecting Shao Kahn anyway. So like, if they start off the first tournament with like the beginning of the movie Shang Tsung getting wrecked and the end of the movie being Shao Kahn battle, you know, they have their own right to create
they definitely did a good job sparing Shao Kahn from not putting him in this movie.
Yeah.
The only thing though I was gonna tell you, commentate on your take on the acting, was, you know what sucks though is that, I mean, the movie worked. I liked it. I thought it was actually a great movie, and it was one of the best video game movies I've ever seen. But I was disappointed in most of the acting, because when the movie first started, when the film first started, the part where they showed the Shirai Ryu and Scorpion and all that, I felt like the actors there actually did a great job, and it actually felt very serious. And then all of a sudden, it turned kind of campy with all the other actors. Now, it could just be what I told you yesterday, where I was just like, oh, maybe because they're speaking in Japanese and Chinese, and I don't know what the hell they're saying. Maybe I just think it's more believable because I can understand them, and maybe it just wasn't that realistic. But to me, it got sold. They sold their performance.
Right. I understand where you're coming from with that, and I think Sergio had a point too yesterday as well, where he was saying that essentially, because the film was done in a way where all the expository dialogue was done through the characters rather than actually shown, it minimized the potential for these characters to kind of have a moment to build upon themselves and justify their attitudes and stuff. And that's why I personally feel that, in the same way that you did, that they should have added, well, I think personally they should have added an extra 30 minutes to the film, and it should have been like a 2 hour and 10 minute movie, 2 hour 20 minute movie, where they would have shown after the whole beginning sequence of prologue, where the Raiden comes in and he picks up a specific child that eventually creates the lineage of Scorpion and stuff for the future, that they should have also done a separate scene right after that where it speaks to why Raiden did that, and eventually it's kind of like he starts narrating a bit as to what's going on, like a bit more about like the outer world and like the tournament and stuff, and then it ends up, and then like I personally think about it as a director, what I would have done is that the like it would show like an overview of the realms, and then like he would explain more of the lore, and then like all of a sudden it zooms out, and like right in front of him is Liu Kang and Kung Lao, and he's like, and that's why you guys are training for this. So and it brings us in, like Liu Kang and Kung Lao could have been our hook to understanding the greater lore, while the other storyline follows the reason as to why this is all going to connect in the future, right? And then that would have given us a better understanding, while also separating the expository language from the characters.
That's what I was thinking too. That's what I was basically trying to say yesterday when we were on Sergio's podcast, was that I felt like what you said was better, right? Because I thought the start of the movie was phenomenal. So I disagree with what I said yesterday in terms of changing the beginning of the movie, but like keeping it where they showed the extermination of the Shirai Ryu and Scorpion. That was fine. Raiden goes and picks up his son or whatever, and then the daughter, and then then that what you said right there, that Raiden starts like giving the exposition, and what I would have done even visually is probably, while he's talking about all that, like just do some maybe slow motion shots of like different worlds and different warriors that they aren't planning on including.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And like fights and stuff, and then just him voicing over that, and then cutting to him explaining to them or whatever, and then all of a sudden from there it could cut to introducing us to Cole, his fight, and and Sub-Zero coming to hunt him down and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they could have just spared all that. Oh yeah, but the realms and they could have taken all that out, and it could have just been character moments, and there the movie would have been a true 10 out of 10 in my opinion.
It would have given them more opportunity, but like I said, at the end of the day, maybe there'll be like a director's cut where they'll add in some of the things that we're mentioning now or similar things. I mean, for all it's their vision. They're not just gonna listen to little Jordan on a podcast of like sub 1,000 subscribers or whatever, right? But what I'm trying to say is, maybe there'll be like an extended cut. Yeah, they could be an extended cut one day where they do that. But it seems like with this film, they just wanted to play it safe, test the waters, and see if it could stick. And honestly, I think it did stick. If people don't support it, well, that's just unfortunate. This could be a wonderful new franchise for us to enjoy.
I think it's gonna do well. I think video games, especially with how popular they are now, like I saw an article yesterday that said that video games are the most popular medium of entertainment for Gen Z. So it's only going to get more popular from there. Honestly, you know, ever since video games were created, it was a big thing. It was started very small, very niche, and it started blowing up. And as it goes on, it just becomes bigger and bigger. So, you know, and honestly, that's starting to show in the movies too, right? Back in the day when video game films were made, they were kind of a joke, right? You look at the Super Mario Brothers movies, it was kind of ass. You look at all those. I mean, the first Mortal Kombat, it was good, but it was like very campy. The Street Fighter movie was kind of mega trash, you know, the live action one at least or whatever. For the most part, video game movies were bad. Now they're being taken more serious. Same thing with superheroes. And look, you're starting to get great films, and this one included. Yeah. I just wish, of course, that the actors could have been stronger, but maybe that's not the feel they wanted to go for. They wanted to go for, you know, like, more campy or just funny dialogue. I felt like they also did a good job of capturing that same spirit of like fighting game stories where like, you know, people start fighting for no reason, like, you know, egg rolls or, you know, literally. Yeah, I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. At least compared to other films where they just let all this crap just go for the sake of like, we're just going to do it for the sake of the action sequence. Like it's justified. Not only is it justified in Mortal Kombat because the entire thing is fight to the death, but they justified it in the films within the character's means, right? Like, yes, Kano is going to get into a fight with everybody because he's just brash, bold, and, you know, he's kind of like a superiority complex. He just wants to fight everybody to prove a point. Sonya fights in terms of defending an ideal or something from what I've seen. Like, she only really dives in because she believes in the Mortal Kombat and defending Earthrealm and all that stuff. Jax is mostly like he was supposed to be like the older, like more reserved, like I think he's like a captain or a major in the movie, so he's like supposed to be the more like reserved, like, okay, I'm just gonna analyze the situation. But then at the end he finally picks up and he gets into the fight, and then Paul's he's just main character. I don't like talking about him too much yet, but I'm whatever with him.
Cole was kind of like a blank slate. I felt like he felt like very plain, like he's almost supposed to represent you if you were in the Mortal Kombat universe, because he didn't have a strong personality of his own, in my opinion, at all.
I also like that that they didn't in classic movie fashion, Raiden would have probably fought, although in the original movie I don't think he fought either. So I like the fact that they didn't put him in a fight, because it falls in line with the lore where like the Elder Guards aren't allowed to intervene in the realms and stuff. So I like that aspect of the film as well, that they didn't just put every character to fight for no reason. Like they justified the reasons why they were fighting for the most part. Yeah, for the most part, I agree. And I want to talk, since we quickly brushed on the VFX and how great they looked. Literally everything was great, the settings, the powers, all that. The fact that they went out of their way to set up shots that literally looked like they were straight out of the game, it actually, like how Sergio said, it actually made me want to play Mortal Kombat again. Yeah, some of those things were beautiful, like Kano ripping out Reptile's heart, or when Kung Lao was fighting Mitara.
Yeah,
the flying
lady, whatever. You know, there was an awkward shot there where her head looked kind of floaty when she was flying up, but then when she dashed at him, and then he literally like got on her back and then surfboarded her into her hat while it was like a buzzsaw on the ground, and then she just got split in two. Like literally they did the perfect Mortal Kombat angle, like that 45-degree from the camera while she split open, that really made it look like it was in the game. And like literally just everything was just perfect. Like the way she split, how they did the organs and all that, the blood splatter, it looked like it was straight out of the game. And of course there was the line that you liked, which I thought was kind of cheesy, but I mean, whatever, it works. It's Mortal Kombat.
It's just Mortal Kombat. I'm a fan, dude.
He stood off of her back and he was just like, flawless victory. And I was just like, I don't know. For me, it was like kind of like
I thought it was justified. He literally went like the person's supposed to fly, and it was like it's supposed to be scary, and you as a viewer you're like, oh crap, like Kung Lao has a hat. Like what is he gonna do with a hat? The dude climbs on her back, drives her into his freaking buzzsaw hat in one shot. No struggle, no stress. Like she didn't even get a chance to like make him break a sweat. It was just literally he just grabbed her and ended her life. I thought it was 100% justified that he could. I think it's justified. I think he deserves the ability to say, "Hey, you know what? Flawless victory."
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if that's how they want to write him, because I mean, regardless, they killed him off like 10 minutes later or whatever. Anyway, or 10 seconds later, more like it. But I just felt like they were making him very serious, and he had a couple moments where he was kind of lighthearted with his friends. I just didn't think in like a death battle scenario that after sawing someone in half, he would have just been like flawless victory. Well, like that's not the feel I got from him as a character.
I understand. I mean, again, this is just me going with the fact that I play Mortal Kombat and I know one thing. I've always seen he's always been kind of like Liu Kang's like more competitive person, but he's always kind of been like, haha, like I know I'm good and I have a lot of self-esteem type of thing. So I see him having moments where he's a little bit more arrogant about situation, and that's one of them, and that's why I feel it's justified. Now, on top of the fact that he legit whooped somebody's butt, no sweat, he deserves the arrogance because he did the effort. He directed. Now, of course, I mean the fact that the way he dies, I understand where you're coming from, but he died to like one of the most overpowered beings in the Mortal Kombat universe. A dude that literally has the ability to grab your soul and become you and absorb your fighting power. So I mean, it's totally justified to an extent. And also the fact that Raiden didn't intervene was kind of a little like heartbroken in my experience, or the fact that no one was able to make it on time to save him. Because Kung Lao is supposed to be like a force that drives forward a lot of the story.
Yeah, but like you said, they could just Deus Ex Machina him back into the story at any time, right?
Well, yeah. They probably will. I mean, it's going to be interesting because in the main Mortal Kombat universe, Liu Kang always dies at the end of the tournament.
Kung Lao?
No, Liu Kang always dies at the end of the tournament, and he always comes back a zombie.
Huh.
He comes back as a feral zombie, like an undead zombie that like starts murdering all the good people. So
interesting. All right.
There's a lot of stuff that they could do with the story, and personally, I'm excited for it. And there's a lot, and the fact that they're rewriting it, if they do this in a sense where whatchamacallit, like Liu Kang is not the one that dies this time, and it's Kung Lao that comes back from the dead. That's an interesting rewrite there. And there's time travel in the universe, anyways. So at the end of the point, like they could just, by the time they make MK9 the movie or whatever, or MK5, they could just be like how it is in the main story where like the good guys lose, and then Raiden turns back time with a time bomb, and and tries to change history. You know? So,
yeah, they definitely have a lot of different directions that they could take it in. I feel like honestly, I don't know if they're just gonna go for a 2-parter, but I feel like they might go for like a trilogy or something. I mean, they could go however far they want with this, right? Like literally, there's 11 Mortal Kombat games, so there's plenty of material to pull.
And there's more than it's Outer World isn't the only feral like world. There's other realms. I don't remember them right now, but there's other realms. Aside from Earthrealm and Underworld, there's supposed to be like 7, and there's supposed to be like a Dragon King that kind of like tries to control all the realms for himself and has like an even greater power. But I think that's Mortal Kombat Deception. Then there's a Mortal Kombat Annihilation with like the god being that's gonna set to destroy the world if they don't climb the pyramid to take the source for themselves. I don't know. There's a lot of stories they can tell that were created over time. Personally, I'm excited. I'm just simply excited for a lot of things that's gonna happen.
As far as like as far as sorry guys, I knocked something back there. As far as like the choreography and like the action in the movie and stuff, though, there was a lot of sick moments, like I previously said, but I had favorites, and I'm gonna tell you that like every single time Sub-Zero was on the screen, that dude was taking the cake. Like they need more of that. They need to find more cool ways to implement the powers into the choreography. Because as far as I know, there was like 3 moments that specifically stood out that were just beautiful in terms of like how they handled the powers for the choreography. And from first place to like 3rd place or last or whatever you want to call it, I would say like everything Sub-Zero did was definitely like a first place. Like that was just beautiful. It was amazingly done. Like I love the part where he was fighting Jax. Jax literally was trying to get him with a shotgun, and Sub-Zero like personally put the barrel of the shotgun right in front of his face. And as Jax he squeezed the trigger, Sub-Zero just froze the blast, and you just see all the bullets coming out, and then slowly just freezing, and then just like not doing anything. I was just like, beautiful.
Oh, and then like and then they froze his arms.
Yeah, he did a fatality where he just like froze his arms and just yeeted him off. That was pretty brutal. That fight was amazing. And also, of course, the moment where he was fighting against Scorpion the second time at the end of the movie, and he like did that upward cut on his shoulder and then like froze his blood into a knife and then brought it down. Like, they need to do more stuff like that. That shit was just
I said, I was pretty excited about a lot of things. Despite the fact that there was a little bit of floaty head, I really liked the Kung Lao part where he grabs Nitara and like does the fatality. I really liked the fact that
the way they animated his hat for throws and stuff too, like regular throws.
They did a pretty good job. I don't remember really seeing too much where like the CGI of the hat popped out from the scene and looked like kind of like obvious that it's fake.
His like, teleport looked good too, because I remember when they introduced him, he like teleported in. I was like, "Yo, that looks just like the game." I was like, "That's my character right there." I just remember liking playing as Kung Lao sometimes.
It's kind of sad that they didn't take a chance to do the tornado spin that he does.
That would have been great.
That would have been great. But I mean, like I said, he didn't have to do anything. He literally murdered the one fight he needed to murder. I like that Liu Kang had his signature, like the flying kick thing, and it looked a little bit better than the original movie as well. So that was kind of nice. I just didn't like the fact that he did like the whole instead of the that I miss from the older games. But I guess that's just them modernizing it. The Melina thing was the one I really loved. I love the fact again that she does the fake kick midair, the feign attack, and then she just teleports out, and the effect of the purple, like sucking her back in as she teleports out and appears behind the person. Cabal, I think they did a pretty good job at doing like Cabal as a speedster, which is something that most movies kind of have a tough time doing speedsters.
Yeah, Cabal was represented pretty well actually. Now that I think about it,
I like the way that he was, and it's not just like like he runs really fast in one direction or not. Like it's just like in the games, he has the ability to like quickly move between certain moments, like certain attacks really fast.
Yeah, that they did a good job with that too. And then when Scorpion and the main character Cole teamed up in the end battle, the choreography against Sub-Zero was pretty great too. So if they do more of that, I'd be hyped for it. But really, there's not a whole lot to say about the movie outside of that. It's just kind of like you get a quick introduction to Cole, his family, find out that he's the descendant of Scorpion. There's all the champions of Earthrealm or whatever marked with the dragon, and they're being hunted down by what's his guy's name?
Shang Tsung and
Shang Tsung's lackeys.
Including
Sub-Zero
and all that stuff.
And then
regarding the thing
fight.
again, so the reason why I think they're gonna do this in this direction, if they do it and they stick to the lore and stuff, essentially Scorpion dies again at some point by the news. Because right now it's like it's the older people, right? But what's gonna happen is that Sub-Zero's son is gonna come, or is supposed to come, take up the thing. But he's instead of being a bad guy, he fights for the good guys in a sense. And then he kills Scorpion again, and Scorpion goes back to hell, but he like officially becomes.
So how come they would fight? Because if Scorpion's a good guy now, unless he's just trying to exterminate the Lin Kuei, then is that what it is?
Yeah, what's gonna happen is he's probably. I remember in the story he eventually goes and hunts down the Lin Kuei, and then that's where Sub-Zero comes to get revenge, and then like he dies again technically. So then that's when he gets the official like, okay, he's dead, and he has the white eyes, and at that point he's just a demonic being. Like he doesn't even recognize humans. He's just feral. Then that's when he's supposed to get like his like thing, and he turns into a fool. Because he in the movie they do it too, where like his face is kind of turning into a skull. He's supposed to officially be just a skull after that.
Okay,
after
I see.
His second death, he's just supposed to be death incarnate.
Hopefully they do go in that direction. Because like I said, that was just like one of the few nitpicks that I had. Is like,
I mean, maybe in their minds,
dead, but not entirely, and then they didn't do his full face turning into a skull.
Maybe in their minds they didn't design it that way, or maybe they just wanted to change it. But personally, I remember it like that, where there's a second death that he has, and after the revenge and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things going on there that they have to work on.
Yeah. So like and the last thing I want to talk about the movie, I guess, is the music was really good too. Like I felt like when they wanted to make it emotional. Specifically the themes that were playing when they were showing you like Scorpion's history and stuff, I felt that that music was pretty great. And of course the ending fight music, I noticed there was a bunch of different versions of the original Mortal Kombat theme that they snuck in there, and they like changed components of it to make it match the moment. Like, obviously the end credits had like the whole house / EDM type of Mortal Kombat theme, which was like a newer remix of the original one. Or there was like I feel like there was a somber one that was playing like when Scorpion was about to leave, or there was like a kind of orchestral version that was playing when Scorpion and Sub-Zero were fighting. So I feel like whoever they got to do the music, pretty good job. There was a couple of tracks that were really memorable. I don't necessarily remember them or haven't looked into their names or anything like that. But if you watch the movie, I think you'll agree with me. A lot of the shots look good. The music was good.
I like the music as well. I mean, there's not much to it. It's just a nice like subtle push for like the movie, the scenes to kind of make them pop out more.
Yeah.
Things I'm excited for. They mentioned Boraicho, which is one of my favorite characters, just because of the fact that he vomits everywhere. He's actually in the game, he may seem like a joke to people, but if you actually like read his lore and the greater story, he's like supposed to be the master of like a lot of the fighters that learn how to fight in Earthrealm. And he's actually pretty potent as a fighter, because if anybody ever watched Drunken Master with Jackie Chan, that a person who knows Kung Fu is Drunken Master somehow magically becomes like a very powerful opponent. And that's who Boraicho is. Like, the drunker he gets, the more powerful he is. So that was pretty exciting. And then there's they also teased Nightwolf. Sadly, no information on him. Supposedly, my understanding is that he was one of the previous champions who may have died in one of the previous tournaments, but we don't know whether he's fully dead or not. I know Michael's excited to see Ermac just because of our one friend who who loved Ermac and just being able to grab your soul and stuff and like throw it around.
Yeah.
And of course, we're excited for Shao Kahn, and Michael wants that freaking shoulder charge.
Yeah, dude, I gotta get me some good shoulder charge in there, otherwise it's not worth it. Honestly, what I want, they got to do a compilation somehow. They got to figure it out. I don't know how big the tournaments are typically supposed to be.
Out of the entire movie, there's only one character I could say that was just kind of a little useless to an extent. Like, he was just there for Jax to have his moment. Was General Reiko, which is like the dude with the hammer.
Was that guy supposed to be like more overpowered or something?
I think he's part of the new lore and the new Mortal Kombat games, because his name is, I remember his name from somewhere. I just can't picture it in the universe right now. But I feel like they just kind of put him there just for Jax to have his moment. Like, that character has zero development. I think all he does is grunt the entire film. Like, his lines are all just grunting,
and he got his ass handed to him pretty badly too.
Yeah, I mean, the way he died though was perfect, because he was there for Jax to do his signature fatality. It was the hand clap, just the freaking Hulk style hand clap,
which is great.
Doosh, and he freaking crushes the head. It was perfect.
What I was gonna say is that I hope that they add, like in the second movie, that they add a compilation of just like people doing fatalities. Like, if they're gonna put a bunch of throwaway characters, I don't know how big typically the tournaments are supposed to be. If they're supposed to be like hundreds of fighters, if you're gonna like throw away characters, do it in a compilation where you just get to see like all the different fatalities get played out.
Yeah.
Danilo in the chat said that the music was memorable, but I don't remember the songs. Michael 2021. I don't remember the names of the songs, but I just know that the music.
Yeah. I mean, look, like you said, right? The final song, the songs were pretty much like a remix and repurposed versions of the original MK theme. The movie theme was like Mortal Kombat. Yeah, like that one. It's just
a lot of them were, but there were some that were just original, I think.
Yeah. There was original soundtrack as well, but that was the one that Michael's referring to, where it was repurposed for the credits and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of great. I mean, aside from that, another thing too is like one thing I could nitpick off the movie, myself.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the acting and some of the other things, is the fact that they kind of, when they went to Outer World, they just kind of through quickly in all the fight scenes, like most of the most memorable arenas. The one that I remembered, which is the one with the bridge and the spikes, and I was like, oh dude, it's the freaking map, he's gonna do the stage fatality, and then he didn't do it. I thought that was kind of a little wasted. They probably shouldn't have picked that arena. I know why they picked it, because it's memorable, but if you're gonna pick that arena, you got to pick the stage fatality.
They'll revisit it, who knows.
No, yeah, they have to, because that's actually one of the most important arenas in the MK universe. And then
what's that character that uses the fans? Is that Katana? Is that what her name is?
That's Katana, but she wasn't there.
I saw her fans in the background though. There was a lot of Easter eggs for Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, there was a Nightwolf thing. There was
the Nightwolf was shown there.
Show, they talked about him.
Yeah.
Katana's like things were there, but there's a lot of things that they're gonna get to, and I hope that they in the new movie, when the tournament actually takes place, that they actually give a bit more time to establish the arenas, because the arenas themselves tell you a story and they prepare you for a scene. So like the reason why I was a little upset with the bridge thing is because I was like, oh, dude, they're gonna set up the stage fatality. They're gonna, there's like this big thing, and then like in the game, Ermac and Sub-Zero and the new Sub-Zero are supposed to be fighting in the other bridge all the way across, and there's like a bigger story to that whole arena. And then, or I think it was like Ermac and Smoke, or I don't know, the two ninjas. It was two ninjas, one of them from whichever they come from, and then it sets up the story for the stage fatality, and then there's torture that's like supposed to be where like the beasts of outer world and some of the criminals or the people that are less favored are kept prisoned. There's a lot of story in that map.
Yeah, they could have. Well, I guess what you're saying is that you're afraid of the fact that since they included it in this film and it was at a very superficial level, that they're not gonna actually explore what that location is.
But it's not just that location; it's like all the locations too. Like there's a lot of locations where there's a deeper narrative to them because of the way that it's done. There's so much stage interaction with each map or things that go on in the background compared to other fighting games that, to me, it's important for them to stay true to that as well.
Yeah.
Like Injustice is another game where they do that a lot, where they have the stage transitions and there's always like a battle in the background and it's part of the story. So it's imperative to me that they consider taking the time to establish those. Now,
yeah,
I guess just to wrap up Mortal Kombat, because we've pretty much done and said everything, and we went into the narrative discussion in the other episode, so I don't see a reason to bring it back. We already lost over it here. I'm gonna review it. Personally, for me, I think the movie's an 8 out of 10. It's a 7 out of 10 film, and it's base level. But because they did such a good job of engaging the viewer, like I was engaged, I enjoyed it. They captured a lot of my nostalgia while not alienating new viewers. That's what makes it an 8 out of 10 for me, because they were able to do both, right? So like in Sonic, while I love that film to death, it's a 7 out of 10 film to me because they just alienated me as a fan by making everything super hyper realistic, with like Green Hills being Kentucky Green Hills or whatever country, or not country, whatever state they used for the movie, right? And then they clearly alluded to the fact that there is the real Green Hills is in the universe. They just threw Sonic into Earth for the sake of defending him against whatever it was that was hunting them down, right? And then Tails comes in at the end of the film and that movie. So I was like, dude, why did you just why'd you do this? But in the same fashion as Mortal Kombat is a prequel to like the tournaments and hopefully the future films, I feel like this Sonic movie was like, he's like a bit younger, and he's like, it's like the prequel to the Sonic films that they're going to plan to do. Outside of that, there's not much else to it. The acting is kind of what keeps it from it going a higher score for me. And also the fact that the film was a little short and I felt that they needed to explain a little bit more. But other than that, it's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I guess if I was to give it a little bit more deep insight into my review, I agree. I think that the score you said is reasonable. Somewhere between like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. I wish I could give it more, because like I could tell that they definitely loved the source material and they really respected the film and put a lot of thought into it. But I felt for the most part, most of the cast acting was just too weak. Like, like I said, I feel like the best two people in that movie were Scorpion and Sub-Zero. To be fair, I think the actress that played Sonya was actually really good, but it was a shame because even though she did a good job playing Sonya, most of her lines were wasted on exposition.
Right, exactly, and that's my problem with it too, because I felt that potentially she could be, but because everything that came out of her mouth was expository or just explaining things to me, in terms of like either background or like the scene itself.
Basically, her character was kind of wasted on that.
It was just wasted on that, and I think they wasted it on that because she originally wasn't a character with the Arcana. But then when she finally does get it after wrecking the crap out of Kano without it, then she finally like when they finally let her do her thing, her attacks and all stuff, she finally became a main character officially. So,
obviously, there wasn't a whole lot of like side characters or like supporting cast. Like, the only person I can even think of right now off the top of my head was just the referee, who was a dickhead, by the way, and a liar. Like, I don't know why, but I don't know where he goes to be the guy, the Cole, the main character at the beginning of the fight or the beginning of the movie. Oh, Cole, you're a piece of shit. Like, why are you still here? Just quit. And obviously Cole was trying to explain in a way. He was like, who else are you gonna get that'll do this fight like last minute for $200 or whatever? And then he was like, yeah, but you're an ass fighter, like you're garbage. And then he actually went to the ring and he did a pretty good job. He almost beat the guy. He just lost, last second because he got to turn around.
It's literally what he said. He's good in offense, but when it comes to defending himself, he got the well, I don't know. They wiped the floor.
I mean, I don't want to go too far into detail. I'm just saying that like that one guy in particular seems like his motives were weird.
Let's meme about it. Cole is Ben Askren. And the other guy that fought him at the beginning of the movie is literally Jake Paul.
Nah, you can't say that either.
I can say because that fight just was, like
that fight was over in like 2 seconds, and Ben Askren didn't stand a chance. Like Cole literally had that almost sealed. Like he almost won that. Like the fact that the guy actually got out of an armbar was extremely questionable because that's extremely hard to do. And like Cole's a seasoned fighter, so I don't believe that he doesn't know how to do a proper armbar.
I personally, the way I take the character
fact that they said that he beat Noob Saibot.
Wait, what?
They said, remember?
No, I don't remember that.
They said that historically, the reason why Cole was famous, or he used to be famous, was because he took the championship title from Tobias. What's his name?
Tobias Boone or Noob Saibot?
Well, the
same name, but
Noob Saibot backwards.
Tobias Boone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now I remember because it was Tobias Boone.
Yeah.
He fought. Tobias Boone is actually the name of Ed Boone's cousin, the creator of Mortal Kombat. They both create Mortal Kombat.
I'm sure that's the context they meant it in, though. That he fought.
Tobias Boone. Yeah. Now I remember because you're saying Noob Saibot, but it's actually Tobias Boone, like him. But that's probably what happens where Tobias Boone eventually, to get revenge, he becomes like a ninja, and then he just
we're getting too mad into it. I just wanted to quickly commentate on the fact that one referee really rubbed me wrong. He just looked like a dick.
I understand.
He was exposition
he was a dick
for setting up that
time.
the Arcana was supposed to really round Cole out because now he had like the ultimate defense or whatever. But I could care less of a shit about that.
My problem with Cole is that he's
playing, dude.
It's not that he's playing. It's that he has this thing about him where he's just like kind of like he fights, but like he has a limit to his energy, and he's like he doesn't have the motivation to finish the fight. Like he just kind of fights, and then he just kind of like spurts out of energy and just kind of like And I'm gonna go fucking meta here, a bunch of crap here real quick. But he reminds me of the story of the Green Knight. I remember reading in high school, the knight that fought Lancelot. Where like the guy like up to noon he would just start gaining power, and then after noon he just like kind of dips in power, and that's literally what Cole is. He's like really overpowered, and then all of a sudden he just kind of he like winds down, and that's literally what happens in the film until he finally activates his freaking Arcana at the last minute, and then finally gains that extra edge or the oomph.
I kind of wish they would have gone with someone else as a protagonist. I'm not gonna lie.
The one thing that did annoy me though, for real, 100% about Cole, like sorry to cut you off, was this one part where Cole and Scorpion are both fighting Sub-Zero, and then Sub-Zero freezes Scorpion, and then Cole looks at that, and he immediately runs to his family and starts beating up Ties.
I actually forgot about that, dude. That's true. Instead of helping in the fight, he was like,
I know that's similar to your Sonya and Melina thing, right? But at least with the Sonya and Melina thing, in my mind, I could just, but that one is just completely unjustifiable. Like, why would he just, bad guy, runs away, beats up Ice, and I was just like, what's going on?
I guess if you, I think that one, I actually think the opposite. I think that was more justifiable than the Melina Sonya. Yeah, he's trying to like if you think about it, Scorpion's an undead Avenger from hell. He's fine. Like he was more worried about his ice, literally his family dying in the ice from hypothermia and stuff like that. So I thought that made sense. But in any case, obviously, I don't think this movie is going to be winning any awards. But I thought for a video game movie, it was fantastic. And I actually truly do want to see more of it. I think they did a great job. A lot of good character moments, a lot of fun Easter eggs. Choreography was great for the most part. The effects was amazing. The powers were amazing.
Yeah.
I hope they take the characters a little bit more seriously in the next movies.
Yeah.
And if they explore more of the lore, I think they'll do a great job.
Of course, 100%. I mean, all they have to do is just do a little bit more. Like that's what I said. The film needed the extra 20 minutes.
Dipping their toes in water to see if it was going to work or not. And now that they saw that it worked, they probably are going to be like, okay,
it's like for the most part, it looks like it worked. And like I said, all they needed was an extra 20 minutes, man. An extra 20 minutes to just get rid of all the expository garbage at the beginning of the film, let the film takes place. Now that they know, they'll do better next time, and they'll be better for it. So
yeah. So I guess that kind of closes the conversation on Mortal Kombat. Was there anything else that you kind of wanted to talk about on the podcast? Because I know there's like a lot of current events that you're kind of excited about.
I mean, this would be the transition, I guess, to the one thing I'm excited for. I mean, we could just talk about it real quick. Another thing we touched on yesterday, but we touched on it lightly because we were running out of time. But the next big thing is like last week we were all like pretty like analytical, I guess, of like Sony's like approach to, or at least the rumors and the articles and all these things saying about like why Jim Ryan's doing this, why Jim Ryan's doing that. But they finally came out and they answered and they reinvigorated their original message as to saying like, oh, we're gonna double down support on PS5, right? Because last week we were talking about like, oh, they were downsizing Sony Japan Studio because they weren't that company wasn't making money as much as before. They were kind of starting to be a little bit of a loss. Theoretically, we were just thinking allegedly they were losing a lot of money. And then the whole big scare where like Sony's like direction now is to kind of double down and focus on the big AAA stuff. And for the most part, I mean, they have the right to do it, right? We talked about it last week, and I know that I always keep going back to the David Jaffe thing because it spoke out to me so much, but that's because the dude knows how to see this. He works in the industry and he's talked to many experts in the industry. And essentially what it is, it's just they're just trying to work their profit. They don't have the same moolah that they can just throw around on mistakes or whatever whenever they want, like Microsoft. They have to be a bit more careful and play their cards a bit closer to heart, and you know, be smarter about it, playing it not loosely but more with a bit more care and caution, right? But what happened was essentially Jim Ryan came out and he said, all right, first things first, I'm going to set this. I know that we haven't been very vocal about it, but at the moment what we're doing is redoubling down our efforts on making sure that our fans have what we promised, which is more support for the console. And our first reaction to that is going to be, we're going to double down focus on exclusives and software support more than any console has ever had. So they're planning to even surpass the PS3 in software support, right? To that end, what's going to happen now is that they are probably going to have extra support studios or additional studios that are going to work on the bigger franchises like Uncharted and stuff to kind of start expanding those franchises a bit. Because it's what I mentioned yesterday as well, right? There is no company like Sony that just takes risks on new franchises every 3 years. Nobody does that, right? Nintendo's been doing the same franchises for as long as people can remember, but that's why they love them, right? Because they just continuously make Zeldas and Marios, and now people want F-Zero and Star Fox, right? And then Xbox is just known for Halo, Gears, Forza, and then occasionally one-off hits in the past that people may or may not have liked as a niche, right? So to that end, seeing that now Jim Ryan's going to do this, supposedly they're saying that Sony's going to have this bigger support. I think what's going to happen is they're going to do the PlayStation Boutique thing that we talked about, which was also mentioned and originated mostly in the David Jaffe channel or on Gavin Games, right? Where they're going to do like a small dedicated focus on smaller games, like AA style games that don't cost, freaking hundreds of millions of dollars to make and produce. Beyond that, I think that the biggest thing that's going on with that statement is that what Jim Ryan is trying to create is not only more funding for the developers to create the games that we all want to see, like God of War and Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us, but he's going to, as a business director and a person who's mostly been focused on the business aspect of PlayStation, he's probably going to try and do what I think should be done in the first place, is just to set an expectation for development, right? Because what happened with the PS4 generation, which was great because it brought us great games, but it brought us less games. And that's because it's not that they were just trying to make better games, is that they gave the developers essentially a carte blanche to create whatever they wanted, waste as much money as you want, right? And it went from like production where like maybe games were costing like 50 to 80 million to make to like 150 million to 200 million dollars in budget, right? And that's a big jump. But if you keep going with that mentality, you're just going to keep bloating. And how much is it going to get to the point where Last of Us is costing $1 billion to make, but the only profit they're making is $500 million in sales because people aren't liking it, or I don't know, same thing that happened with Last of Us 2 where it divides the community, right? If that happens again, but Last of Us doesn't cost $150 million or $200 million, it costs $1 billion, it's going to be an L. So the only way for them to do this is to do two things. One, set an expectation with a budget. Two, release on PC.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying is that the new direction, finally what happens is that they confirmed that basically they're going to start doing better risk assessment. They're going to actually look into what games they're trying to...
Yeah, it's not directly stated, but they said they're going to support this generation more than ever. I'm just taking it as they're going to do better risk assessment.
All right. I guess we'll see what ends up happening with that.
Exactly. Then the other piece of news was that they came out and they said they started a new partnership with a new company that was created or developed in 2018. And essentially, it's made up of a bunch of Michael hates this. It's made up of a bunch of Destiny, Call of Duty, Halo, and I forgot what was the fourth game. But essentially, it just came from all of that, and they're gonna make a new big multiplayer game exclusive to Sony. Yeah.
Does that mean? Do you think that most likely means it's gonna be a live service piece of crap game?
I think what's going on is what I'm gonna start. Obviously, we don't know what they're capable of. This is the new company. We only know that they have experience from these companies, right? Mm-hmm. But the one thing that Jim Ryan said, along with the company together, when they came out and announced that this project is gonna happen at some point, probably like 2 or 3 years down the line, the biggest thing they said is that, coupled with their knowledge of making multiplayer games, because they made COD, Halo, and Destiny, or they were individuals that worked in those companies, right? And the fact that Sony understands their consumers and prioritizes storytelling and narrative-driven games, because that's what people love about Sony, like their big cinematic narrative single-player stuff. They're gonna combine that and make a product that they think that they could make a good product out of those ideals. But I want to say that in order for it to work, they have to understand that since it's an exclusive directed towards Sony, the Sony fan base, they need to prioritize the one thing that every other looter shooter or whatever multiplayer game they want to make has failed to encompass completely, and that's a proper storytelling. I mean, people could say, hey, look, Outriders is not bad. Hey, I agree. Outriders is not bad. They could say that Marvel's Avengers had a great story. That's debatable to some people, especially like Michael. People could say Destiny has a story now. It's like, again, it's debatable because it's chopped up into pieces and released like piecemeal. People could say Genshin Impact. I don't even want to get started on that because the story hasn't developed in like 5 months. But the point is, they need to understand that there needs to be a fully complete product first before they start monetizing.
Yeah, no more minimally viable products.
Yeah.
But I'm doubtful. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we can be doubtful.
I mean, the fact that Destiny succeeded as it was, and I really dislike Destiny.
I don't think the game won't succeed.
You don't think the game will succeed?
I'm not saying that it won't succeed, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think
it has room for it to grow. However, like, honestly, the way that things are, people have proven to me that, they're gonna like whatever they like. It doesn't necessarily have to fit my standards or whatever. If it was for me, to be honest, to be frank, I know people might disagree with this sentiment. I feel like Destiny would have failed. Like, Destiny was a product that shouldn't have made it, and people loved it. Enough people loved it where it's still alive and whatever. So, far be it from me to say what game should succeed or not. I just personally think that it's a shame that there could be more Halo 1s, 2s, and 3s, and instead there's Destiny's 1, 2s, and 3s. That's all I feel like. Whatever. If you want to add different elements to your games, that's fine, but there's just something that felt magical compared to those games, compared to like a lot of what we see now. And I think it's usually the fact that the headspace of these companies is more occupied with figuring out how they can monetize their games rather than making a very solid product.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we still don't know what it is. It could be just as simple. It could be a new MMO, it's the state of Final Fantasy, so it becomes its own like category. It's not even anything to do with Destiny. Maybe they'll go the classic route where you just pay for what you want. You get the game, you get the DLC, and that's it. No microtransaction or anything like that. Maybe it's all microtransaction, but it's a free-to-play game. We don't know what it's going to be yet, right? We just know it's composed of people who understand the more addictive games, which is Call of Duty, Halo, and Destiny, and that it's being coupled with Sony's understanding of what their supposed player base wants, which is allegedly single-player games, cinematic storytelling.
That might mean it's something very good then. So we'll see.
I know, we don't know. I mean, but then again, at the same time, I've been saying it too. I've been vocal about it. It's like, hey, I understand you guys love making these big Last of Us production games, but I want more things like God of War and Ratchet and Clank, where it's a bit more like fun to play, and it does have cinematic experiences and all that. But I don't think that everything needs to be Naughty Dog. I think Naughty Dog is its own thing, and that's why they're good at making what they do. And I think that everything else should be its own thing. And the way that Ghost of Tsushima, while it's a cinematic driven thing, people can say it's an open world game and this and that. Days Gone is also an open world actiony game, even though it has a 50-hour story. So I just want them to remain with the creativity, right? Like, there's literally no horror game right now that you can say like takes anybody by storm other than Dead by Daylight and the Medium. Not even the Medium. What's the best horror games right now to play? Phasmagoria, right? Phasmophobia. Okay. Phasmophobia, like Dead by Daylight, and Resident Evil 8's about to come out, but then that's about it, right? Sony has, with their cinematic driven storytelling thing, maybe they just don't want to take the risk because, you know, it's pretty hard to deal with the themes and stuff and then getting them approved for selling and all that stuff in production, because of course you got to make sure that it's not too violent or this and that or whatever. And I know that Sony has their own specific standards with it, but I mean, there's a big open market for it and there's only one person capitalizing it, and that's Capcom, right? And then of course indies. But with their cinematic story-driven storytelling capabilities, they could do something there. It doesn't have to be zombies. Maybe it could be ghosts like Alan Wake. Maybe it could be I don't know, aliens. There's not really. The last time I remember seeing aliens in a game was probably XCOM and Alien Isolation. Like, there hasn't been an official like aliens thing other than Destiny, but Destiny's using it as an action thing. They could do a horror story with it. Maybe, I don't know, consider doing. Well, I personally think they should buy the developers of Biomutant, but that's not gonna happen. Just because I want them to have more Ratchet and Clanky like games like Kenna and all that stuff. There's a lot of things they could do, man. I mean, well, you know what? I'm wrong. Returnal's coming out. It's gonna have like but it's gonna be like Doom horror. It's not really like Silent Hill horror. It's gonna be Doom horror. I want them to make a Silent Hill horror type of thing. They have the capabilities for it. They have the technology.
You want like something that's a little bit more of a psychological experience.
Yeah, exactly. They have, especially with the cinematic driven stuff, they could make a really visceral and thrilling experience.
Well, you know how it is, man. When these new consoles launch, it's always like super slow.
No, of course. I mean, but that's what I'm saying too. That's my argument, because if people are saying it's slow as fuck as ever, but that wasn't the plan from the beginning, and it's being proven now. I told you on PS4 when I first started the console, there was 2 exclusives that were AAA or whatever came out from their thing, and then the rest of it was just blank for most of the year, right? This time we're getting a banger after banger every month.
I understand that, but like I also feel like, let's say when like PS4 was in its stride already, or the PS3 was in its stride already, I felt like games came out almost like monthly or whatever, you know?
Well, yeah, and that's
games,
what I'm saying, titles. Right?
I feel like right now it's just kind of slower compared to that.
It is in the
at least, and also in terms of like titles that are actually very good, because like you look at some of the games that came out, I was like, okay, like the All Stars racing game. I
don't want to say that. Like I said, I'm rediscovering all the things I missed from 2014. That I like after Destiny, I just blanked. Like you and I blanked out. You got busy with work, and I just blanked out into the Destiny world for like 2 or 3 years. And I missed out on a lot of things, right? But now that I'm going back, I'm seeing indie games that were gems that I totally missed out on. I'm seeing games that out of nowhere, like, whoa, I don't remember this being announced to me, or maybe I just forgot about it. So I don't want to write it off. I know where you're coming from, but I don't want to write it off, because there's a lot of good things that also came out in the PS4 era, and there's a lot of reasons why people are regarding that generation as,
well, yeah, but I'm saying
so
PS4
great.
Once it caught its stride, it had like good games coming out, like, you know.
But I know where you're coming from, because like, for example, and I've said it last episode, right, where Naughty Dog had Uncharted 1 through 3 and Last of Us, but then the PS4 generation came out and they did Uncharted 4, Last of Us remake or remaster, whatever, Uncharted 4 DLC, and then Last of Us Part 2, and that's it, right? And then we had Sony Santa Monica had God of War. No, actually they had God of War 3 and God of War Ascension. And then they only had God of War in the PS4 era, right? And then Sucker Punch had Infamous 1 and 2, and then PS4 had Infamous 4, and then, you know, it took them from 2014 to 2020 to make a new game, right? So I understand where you're coming from, especially Rockstar. Rockstar was the one that was like, damn, like they had GTA 4, GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption, Max Payne 3, LA Noire, and then the PS4 era came in and it's just GTA 5 remake or remaster and freaking Red Dead Redemption. So I totally agree with you. I understand where you're coming from. production slowed down, but that's because they had to either slow down or sell you a Cyberpunk. You know, it's a risk you got to take as a business. But I feel the PS4 generation was a learning curve, and now with PS5, it's going to be like PS2, where it's like, okay, we understand the new generation of technology, and now we're going to capitalize on that by producing again. I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay, that's fair.
A fair assessment, isn't it?
Yep. I guess we just got to keep an eye open, see what happens. And
right. The last thing I wanted to talk on, because I've been mentioning, is Returnal. I've been seeing a lot of things. I don't know if you want, or if we can pull up some gameplay right now, but essentially, like, they released a 45-minute gameplay thing, and it's exactly what I expected to an extent. It's exactly like Doom. You have your mini map, you got searching, you got abilities and pickups and all that stuff you can find around the map. It's fast paced but third person with like action, but like the really cool thing is that the creatures are very unique. Like, it's unlike things I've seen in most other games. The majority of games nowadays, it's very humanoid enemies, and then Doom has kind of like their thing because they capitalize on their history. But these enemies are very unique. Like, you're fighting, like, it's very Lovecraftian, where like you'll find an enemy that's like small, and then you'll find an enemy that's like larger than life. I don't know. The game kind of reminds me of, like, you know, those memes where like it'll show like some small struggling thing versus like a giant giant thing. That's what the game feels like, where essentially I'm fighting a bunch of giant creatures, and I'm the tiny thing that's just looking up, and it's like these creatures are just like.
Would the size comparison be comparable to, like, let's say what's the game, Shadow of the Colossus?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that, at least not from what I've seen. But I would say the enemies are very big. Like, I would say they're more like Bloodborne sized enemies to an extent. Where they're not larger than life, but like they're like building sized enemies. And what I like too is that it has a hint of horror, because the enemies aren't like charismatic. They don't have an attitude. They don't have a personality. They just stare at you, and they're just death incarnate. And then they just like summon up a bunch of lights and tentacles and just throw a bunch of beams at you, and you have to kind of dodge them. It's like bullet helly. So I wouldn't say the game's like the next Last of Us, but I would say the game's a solid, similar to Mortal Kombat, solid 8 out of 10 for me. Like, from what I've seen so far, if I had to review it based off of just previews, the game feels like an 8 out of 10. It looks fun. It looks like energetic. It looks like an interesting game that has a hint of seriousness, but like a hint of also like challenge and just fun to the game. So
I was thinking that maybe we should consider like starting to play games and stuff on this channel, doing reviews and stuff.
Right.
If you guys are interested in that, let us know, because right now me and Jordan are kind of trying to
expand. I mean, again, it has to be with limit, because like I said, I have a lot of personal crap at home that I have to deal with, and of course, like, I'm personally, like, I want to do it, and I think that if I could get away with the classes that I'm going to get away with, which are seemingly busy work classes, which means it's going to be a lot less stressful than 2 exam classes, and if I can get away with that, then I will have a lot less stress and more free time to do projects like these over the week. And then because I think, just so everybody knows, like, I was talking about this with Michael, we're planning on maybe doing 2 episodes a week, so that way we can get more guests, because not everybody can do Saturday, right? But what I want to do, and just to point it out, what Michael was saying, like doing reviews and stuff, the reason why I'm mentioning Returnal is because it's going to be like a preview, like first impressions based off of gameplay type of thing. But we're doing that because we want the next episode. Well, not next. Next episode will be like us reaction, and then we'll do one with Sergio, where we're gonna do a slightly like review / reaction to the actual game. I'm gonna bring the PS5, and we're gonna actually hook it up and play it.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty fantastic. Danilo in the comments says that we should do first impressions of games. That would actually be fun as well. I feel we should, as time permits, because Jordan has a lot more things that tie him down. We're going to try to expand into many different types of content, and we do want suggestions for the different things that we should do. I think first impressions is great. Reviews would be great. We're planning on doing skits, shorts, all this different stuff. So just keep an eye out for it. But as we kind of figure things out, you'll start to see us expand slowly, hopefully, as we can, because we definitely want to see the channel grow more, and I feel like there's a potential for that to happen. I think we're pretty much wrapped up here, right? Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Or
no, I mean, that was it. I mean, based off what I said, if you want to throw in your opinion or input on the game, but for the most part, it's like if we're not going to show the game, there's not much else to say.
Just from what I've seen, I mean, it just looks, like pretty much from what I expected. Third person horror, it has horror elements and stuff, switches between like the the exploration of your dreams or your memories or whatever, and then exploring the world and fighting the
the
monsters
story's a bit deeper than
bullet
that,
hell and all that.
but yeah.
So, you know, honestly, it looks cool. I just don't have anything more to say about it at the moment. I think I'll actually have to play it or whatever to formulate
it's coming
any more
out.
of an
It's coming out
opinion.
next week Friday. I'm not gonna be here till Saturday, but it will be picked up by my family. I have somebody that's gonna pick it up for me on Friday, and then I will. I want to bring it that Saturday, but I don't know if it'll be too cumbersome, and maybe it'll be just best to save it for the Sergio episode, later in the week. But we'll see. We'll see what it is. We'll talk.
We'll try to figure it out.
We'll figure out the
worst case scenario. We'll just keep you guys in the loop, updated as to what we're gonna do, and hopefully we just start posting a lot more content here. Anyway, thank you guys for watching or listening. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet, or check out the Buzzsprout in case you'd like to listen to us on the go rather than watching us live. It's the best way to consume in the event that you want to do an errand or listen to us while you're driving or something like that. So you could do that as well. Remember, guys, if you want to support, we have merch, we have our Patreon. Consider giving that a look as well. And you could always give us a follow on all our other socials like our Twitter and our Instagram. And you could also follow our personal socials at Michael C. Moore and at JG_Mark1 with a C for Jordan there. Got to work on that name tag, but whatever, he's keeping it for right now. Regardless,
be unique, bro. I'm
unique.
built different.
He's built different.
Before I was worried about it, now I'm accepting it. I'm just built different.
Branding God.
Hey, there you go. Exactly.
Anyway.
Everybody's so lame and like samey as everyone else, right? That's why my thumbnails are naturalist, because everyone wants to do these big oversaturated thumbnails, and mine's just say, look, you're getting what you're getting.
Scientifically proven to work, you know.
No, I agree.
Danilo says, great commentary as always. Peace out, guys. Love y'all. Love you too, man. Thank you for stopping by. And we love the rest of you guys. Thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.